What happens when the winter refuses to let go and spring comes all at once? In 2019, the Missouri River, one of America's greatest waterways stretching over 2,300 miles, rose out of its banks and stayed that way for months. This wasn't a typical spring flood. It was a perfect storm, the result of frozen ground, relentless rain, and one extraordinary weather system that turned the Midwest into an inland sea. The flood story began long before the first levee broke. In 2018, the Missouri River Basin soaked up months of heavy rain, one of the wettest autumns on record. The ground froze during the winter before it could dry. A brutal winter was ahead. Snow piled up across Nebraska, Iowa, and the Dakotas, more than double the average in some places. There was 27 inches of snow in February alone. Beneath the snow lay a trap, saturated frozen soil that couldn't absorb a single drop once the thaw came. It was nearly 17 inches in frost depth. In mid-March, a powerful low-pressure system called a bomb cyclone slammed into the plains. It brought heavy rain, rapid warming, and hurricane-force winds. Rain fell onto the snow, melting it almost overnight. With the ground frozen solid, meltwater raced straight into rivers and creeks. Ice jams blocked the flow, dams overflowed and failed, including the Spencer Dam in Nebraska failing. Within hours, the Missouri River was unleashed. The river swelled beyond anything seen in decades. In 2019, more than 50 record river crests were recorded across the basin. Some areas stayed in the flood stage for over 7 months. Runoff from thousands of tributaries poured into one giant flow, carrying the flood downstream from South Dakota to Missouri. Livelihoods and homes were devastated. Farmers across the basin lost entire seasons of work, costing over $4.5 billion in lost output and regional income, and nearly 20 million acres went unplanted. Thousands were displaced and 12 lives were lost. Bridges and railroads were destroyed, supply chains were rerouted, and some towns were nearly erased. As water spread, they carried chemicals, fuel, and sewage, contaminating the nearby wells. Scientists say the flood wasn't just bad luck, but rather a result of the basin seeing an 8% increase in annual precipitation over the last century. Warmer winters due to climate change meant more rain on snow events, just like what led to this flood. Our human impact with the dams, levees, and drain wetlands had reshaped the river's natural flow, which can sometimes have an adverse effect, trapping water where it used to spread and release naturally. In the flood's aftermath, nearly 7 months later for some areas, communities across the Midwest began rethinking how to live with the river. Engineers started setting levees back, giving the river more room in a disastrous event. States invested in real-time flood monitoring like the Missouri River Flood Information System to predict surges before they strike. Farmers experimented with new drainage systems and insurance routes, and planners began thinking less about fighting floods and more about how to coexist with future ones. 2019 reminded us with force that nature writes the story. As we continue to deal with climate change, floods like this may come more often and with greater force. This flood taught us that resilience isn't just about resisting water, but more about understanding it.